Welcome to Emerging Franchise Brands, the podcast that introduces you to the visionary founders of America's fastest growing franchise opportunities. We'll also hear from industry pros as they share what it really takes to achieve the elusive milestone of 100 plus locations. I am your host, Frank Fiume, founder of InclYOUsion Sports, and my 20-year journey from inception to acquisition has given me a unique perspective on how to succeed in franchising. Join me as we welcome today's guest. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. On today's show, I have the co-founders of InclYOUsion Sports, Greg and Kristen Perkins. Guys, how are you today?
Happy to be here.
Nice to have you guys on.
Thank you.
All right. Well, who's going to tell us what is InclYOUsion Sports?
Sure. I'd be happy to share. So, back in 2021, we have 3 young children, and our oldest child was trying sports for the first time. I know as a parent that can be a little bit intimidating, and also for kids. So we just tried one of the local soccer programs in our town. We're located in the North Shore of Boston. And it was, mid-pandemic times, and it was really tricky for kids who were trying new things, especially sports. My son tried in a traditional class, lots of kids, a few kind of volunteer coaches, not much flexibility with how the curriculum was delivered, and it was very unsuccessful. He was crying and hitting me and screaming he wanted to leave, and all of that was very uncharacteristic for him. So, I took him to the car and called Greg and just said, what are we going to do? He deserves to try sports too. So I started Googling inclusive sports classes near me, thinking there has to be something else, like that can't be it. And that was it. It was really traditional sports programs like we all grew up with, or disability focused programs, but my son doesn't have a disability. And so we were left wondering, what do we do? We're in the middle here. And at the same time, Greg was experiencing some professional opportunities as well. Maybe I'll turn it over to him to share that.
Thanks, Kristen. Yeah, so my background is in special education and behavior analysis. So I've worked with kids with autism and various diagnoses for the past 15 years in various settings: schools, centers, community, homes, clinics, any location, you name it. And that's been my passion ever since graduating. And while this was all going on, like Kristen said, with our son, I was going through kind of some career pondering myself, wondering if I was in the right place at the right time. So I was in a restrictive kind of center-based program for kids with autism, and I wanted to kind of do something different and bring my skill set out into a more real-world application. And while I was looking inward, I said, what do I want to do? And it was combine my love for helping kids that might not have the same opportunities to learn sports and my passion for sports in general. I played everything growing up. I loved that kind of aspect of coming home from school, playing with the neighborhood kids until the streetlights came on and everyone played. You were 6 years old, you were 10 years old, you were slow, fast. We made the rules so that everyone could play. And that inclusive mindset has always been with me, that I just want to play sports and we'll figure out a way to do that. And that was kind of that parallel with our own situation with our son led us to kind of having those first conversations to get our business rolling.
Wow. Well, we know, Greg, there's been many studies that we don't even need to know these studies. We know this from our own personal experiences as all of us kids growing up, that the number one reason why kids play sports is to have fun.
Yeah,
right?
and that's the driving framework for us. Our games are super fun. We play alien tag, egg hunt, clean your room. For us, it's about bringing that fun and that inclusive environment where families can come on the field. Their grandparents are playing third base coach, waving the kids in while we learn baseball. So that's the kind of atmosphere that we want to set with our classes.
That's beautiful. Is this your first entrepreneurial journey?
It is, yeah. So we both don't come from entrepreneurial families. We have several friends who have gone out on their own, and so we got to lean on their expertise when we launched InclYOUsion Sports. But really, we were starting from the bottom, like Googling, how do we set up an LLC? So really, we when we got to the point of thinking about how we wanted to grow this business, we knew that we wanted to help other people not have to go through all the challenges that we did to get to where we are now, because we were going at it alone.
And so that was it. You guys went from my son needs a sports program to we're starting a business and we're going to franchise. This is all within like a 4-year period. That's just incredible. So tell me about when you first launched InclYOUsion Sports.
Yeah.
What was it like? And what did you do?
Yeah. So, I mean, we were like, we don't know if anyone's going to show up. We know we want this, but does anyone else want this? And so we leaned on some relationships we had in the rec space. And so we were able to set up a partnership with a local rec department. They gave us a chance to use their fields. And we said, look, we really think we're onto something here, but, just give us a chance, because it was unique in this area. So we started marketing and building hype and leaning on our network. And we launched in September 2021. And we had families from over 20 different cities and towns in Massachusetts traveling to our classes the first weekend. And so we thought, okay, so it's not just us, like we're onto something here, and our idea was validated. And Greg, do you want to share kind of where we went from there?
Yeah, fast forward through that, amazing. And like Kristen said, I quit in August of that year and we launched in September. So I was all in, and this was happening. So there wasn't a choice. So that early success was really important for us to keep the mission going. The town over heard about it, then the town over from them heard about it, and continued to grow. Our partnerships are well over 50 now across the state of Massachusetts, working with different rec departments, preschools, daycares. Anywhere you have kids, we'd love to show up and coach them. Because our program is fully mobile, we have the ability to train our coaches really well, have them go out to the field, deliver those programming, bring the equipment, pack up and go. So it's a really great model for us to grow. And it wasn't a straight line, like you said, in those 4 years. There was a lot of chutes and ladders, and we went up and down and all around, but we figured it out, and we're excited to share where we are today.
Wow. Isn't it incredible? There are so many youth sports programs, private sector and public sector, the Parks and Rec programs alike, yet there's still always room for somebody else that is going to provide something different and has their own culture and your own spin on things. What inspired you, though, to be able to know that there is a lot of competition out there and you weren't afraid? Because I think this is a really important message for other people who are out there listening to this, that maybe they have an idea, they have a business idea, and something is holding them back. It's the fear that, oh gosh, there's so much competition, I'm never going to succeed. Why didn't you guys let fear get in the way?
I feel like the families who have enjoyed our programming over the years are the ones that gave us the motivation to keep going. They're the ones that are directly telling us there's nothing like this out there. Because youth sports in general really hasn't changed much since the last 10, 20, 30 years. And for a lot of kids, that's great. That's fine. Some kids can jump into their local Little League programs or youth soccer programs, and they can just kind of jump in with 20, 30 kids, follow the directions, and leave. However, there's a lot of kids out there that can't. There's a lot of kids that in order to have a successful experience, they need more supportive attention from their coaches. They need inclusive teaching tools, like using whiteboards to go over the agenda, the schedule for the day. I mean, they're very basic things that kids who can't jump into the leagues or have tried and had an unsuccessful experience, that they're kind of left to drop out of sports. And we know from data that kids are dropping out of sports, and there's all these initiatives. How do we get more kids in sports? We have to think about how all kids learn and make sure we're intentionally designing sports experience so that all kids can be successful. And really the families have said to us, thank you so much. Now my kid has built confidence in your, baseball, soccer, multi-sport program. Now they're going to try out for their Little League because now they know how to run the bases the right way. They know how to hold the bat. So there's really like basic skills that a lot of kids can go jump into their leagues and figure it out. But a lot of kids can't. And so that's where we knew we had space in the market, because there is a lot out there. We did a ton of competitive research, not only when we launched, but now as we're franchising, because we're not the first youth sports, business to franchise, as you know very well. But we are disrupting the industry with really innovative ways to make sure those kids aren't left behind, the ones that can't jump into the regular leagues because they're nervous, they've never tried sports before, maybe their parents aren't the types of parents that know how to go play catch in the backyard. They never played sports. Maybe they have a disability. And so their local programs don't know how to teach soccer to a kid in a wheelchair, right? So it's a lot of people that are feeling left behind. Their parents are delaying enrolling them in recreation. We're here to create a space for them.
Well, one of the things I think you guys that are doing that is so smart that a lot of people miss the mark on is they try to be everything to everybody. And you know exactly who you're catering to. You know who your target audience is. What about the age range? What is the age range of kids that you're servicing?
Yeah, that's a good question too, and it took some time for us to figure out who we are and what we're good at. Like I said, a little bit of shoots, a little bit of ladders. So our target age is 2 to 10, and that took some manipulating in the beginning to figure out who's looking for these types of classes, and really focusing on what we were good at, which was delivering non-competitive, really fun, engaging, fundamental programs, teaching those sports through fun games, and breaking down the skills so that each kid was getting something out of it. And that's kind of the YOU of inclusion. We teach you and your family the sport, the activity, the game. So if that's one kid with autism and he's 5 years old and he's really working on staying with the group and maybe not hitting the friend next to him, they might be right next to a 5-year-old who might be working on throwing it 6 feet instead of 4 feet. They're right there learning the same sports together. And our coaches do such a good job at, yes, we're teaching the sports, but they're going to connect these kids socially. And through that work that we're doing, having these kids getting invited to birthday parties, which happened for the first time, and parents being like, my son never got invited to a birthday party before. So that's kind of that why too. And yes, there was fear like launching these things, but to be able to bring these kids together in this organic class where you can be who you are truthfully, and our coaches will bring that best out of you and work with you and your family. That's what kind of sets us apart. And that's where we found that 2 to 10, they're out there learning sports for the first time. Those parents are learning the community for the first time. They might be going through some type of diagnosis with their child for the first time. We're that supportive setting where those families can come and not only learn sports, but make friends with other parents. They can learn strategies from our coaches that can translate back to their home. Like Kristen said, we use a whiteboard for all of our classes to go over our schedule. A lot of families are taking that strategy and they're using that in their homes for their nighttime routines. So they have get dressed, brush your teeth, use the bathroom, read a book, go to bed. And just laying out those expectations has been game changers for those families, not only with our classes, but at home. And that's the big part that I love about our classes is tying this holistic kind of approach to sports is not just drop your child off and they're going to be in a tournament all weekend. We want to see the growth over the progress of those weeks or months that those children are with us and learn about them and help them grow, help their family grow as well.
How amazing. So you came up with techniques that families are using off the field at home. Incredible. And you didn't let fear get in the way because the mission of what you're trying to do was far stronger and much more motivating than the fear of getting started. I think to me, that's the lesson that I'm hearing in all this. I think that's beautiful. Let's talk about the coaches, because I would imagine as maybe people listening to this and they're thinking, gosh, I would maybe love to open an InclYOUsion Sports franchise, but I don't have any experience, and there's maybe kids with disabilities, and I just don't know how am I going to be able to make an impact. And you're talking about these coaches and how are they trained and are they paid? So can you talk a little bit about them, because they're an integral part of your business from what I understand.
Yeah, so we find our coaches across many different sectors, and I think that's what really sets us apart is the passion and the know-it-all of these coaches that are coming to us, that they are very well attuned to what our mission is. So we have teachers from the education field. We have a lot of first grade teachers, kindergarten teachers in that age group. We have a lot of speech language therapists. We have a lot of occupational therapists. We have college students. We feel that if the coaches are coming to us with passion, a drive, and a like mission, our robust training from our leadership team can really give them the tools to kind of like what we talked about, eliminate some of those barriers and connect the class together. So like we said earlier, our coaches are all paid. So they're working. A lot of them have their 40-hour-a-week job and they're working with us some part-time hours. So we do have about 30 part-time coaches that are working for us right now in the Massachusetts area. And they go through our online training and in-person training, and then they are our faces. And we can't do anything without them, obviously. So we're so proud of all of the coaches that we have across our state representing our brand. And if there's anything else you wanted to add, Kristen.
Yeah, so the thing is, we took a lot of time before we even launched in 2021 to make sure the coaches training program is the best that's out there, because exactly like you said, there are faces. We can't be in every location, and we can't be the coaches everywhere.
I tried.
Yeah.
True.
So Greg did try for a period of time, but that's a lesson.
Don't we all?
Yeah, that's a lesson we don't want to talk about here, because
Back to the chutes and ladders.
Yes.
Exactly. But because we've always taken the time to invest in our coaches training program, it actually made it very easy to prepare for franchising, because we already had it all set up from the beginning. And
Sure.
it's going to be very, very easy to hand off and have a franchisee implement on their own. They'll know exactly, how to hire coaches, because we have a very robust operations manual. So not only will they have all the video training and all the support resources, they'll also have exactly how we target and hire coaches, because it does make a difference. Families do feel the difference when they have a coach that's excited to show up and coach their kids, rather than they're just clocking in and out for a part-time job. You feel that energy. And so to curate a group of coaches like that, it takes a lot of work, and it's taken a lot of work for us. But now that it's all documented, it'll be really easy to hand off.
Yep, for sure. And Greg, doesn't hurt that you have this expertise that really most people don't have when they start a sports program.
Yeah, and
that really helped.
And that's my exciting part about this next part of our business. We've grown it over here. I've coached every which way, and now I'm excited to turn those tools over to someone else that can help continue to grow our mission. And that's kind of my role in the franchise. We'll be helping these new franchisees getting their feet up and running, getting they're trained how to make the partnerships, how to deliver the classes with success and energy. So that's what I'm excited about into this next phase.
Nice. Well, I love doing this podcast. I love talking to entrepreneurs that, had the guts to start something and go through the ups and downs. And one of the things that I pride myself on when we do the show is we talk about the things that went well and not well. And we have transparency, because let's face it, we're humans. Things don't always go well. And I believe that, quite honestly, a lot of my franchisees came along or really stuck with me and supported me because I wasn't afraid to say, I screwed up, I made a mistake. So I want to hear a little bit more shoots and ladders. So, Greg,
you want more shoots?
Come on,
now?
I just want a little more shoots.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I know you were everything. You were all over the field. You were coaching. You did too much.
Yep.
Don't we all? What's another mistake maybe you guys made though that you actually learned something from, and you were like, we're never doing that again, and you're able to improve as a result of it?
I would love to share on that.
I want to share too.
There's so many. We would be here all day for that. We are so clear on the importance of this being a mobile business, because we tried a brick and mortar for a period of time. So when we launched, we were a mobile business, and then we had so much demand from families. They wanted to do birthday parties, private coaching. They had all of these things. And we were at the period of our business where we said yes to everything. And so we thought, how do we provide the services that people want? But we're also in New England, right? So it's like when it's winter time and you have a birthday party request, where do you do that exactly? So we went on the search for a brick and mortar. We also had a ton of sports equipment at that point that we needed to figure out where to store that. And we just had so many ideas, and we were trying to solve challenges. So we found a wonderful space, really great landlords, and set up a brick and mortar while also running mobile classes across the state. So we basically started a second business, even though it was within InclYOUsion Sports. We were trying to run a brick and mortar and run the mobile piece, and we didn't slow down on either. And it came to a point where we said, we need to pick one. We can't keep doing both. We're completely burnt out, and we need to really be clear on what we want our franchisees to do at some point, because we knew at that point we wanted to be a franchise. We can't do it this way. That's when we decided, the mobile business model is so brilliant because you don't have the overhead. So when we work in our partnerships with rec department schools, they add on any fees that they need to cover their costs for field space and gym space. We don't pay fees to work with these organizations. And so we have essentially tech as overhead so that we can continue to run programming like really efficiently on the back end. But we don't have rent. We don't have all of the things that come with a brick and mortar. And it makes it really, really easy to take risks in the business, to run the day-to-day, and to support franchisees to come in at a really low cost when they're onboarding because they don't have all that overhead. So we know we had to do it because we had to figure out that we're not a brick and mortar, but the pains of that, I think I'm going gray because of that, really.
Kristen, you guys should have called me. You should have called me because we've all dabbled in the idea of I'll do a brick and mortar until we realized that the true magic, I would have told you guys this, the true magic of your business is that you get to impact so many more families because you're going to them as opposed to them coming to you. If you had that brick and mortar, there's only so much of a drive time that people will consistently make to go to your location. So here's the great thing of this is that one day you're going to have a prospective franchisee that's going to say, I love this, but I want to do it my way. I want to do a brick and mortar. And you get to share with them how you went through that actual journey and that process. And the fact is that people will try you out if you had a brick and mortar once, twice, maybe one quote unquote season. But if they're coming from a far distance, they're eventually going to get burned out. And that's the beauty of your business, that if you do this consistently, just mobile and add on locations, you get to impact so many more people you never would have had a chance to ever service.
That's so true.
Yes. Yes. Greg, is there another shoot that you would like to share?
Was we had to change our name 3 months into the business. I think that's a pretty big one. We were not
What
always,
happened?
we were not
We
always
didn't have to. We chose to change our name.
Yeah. So we had a different name when we launched in 2021. And when we started to look at trademarking, that company existed in Seattle, Washington. So as we wanted to be a national brand and we started growing, being the national brand after a successful month, we think big, Frank. So we think big. So we're obviously stuck with the idea of we can't be this name. We need to be something different. So through some conversations, we got to this name, and it just so clearly speaks to our vision and mission. And we're so grateful and lucky to have kind of stumbled upon it. So that big shoot was changing our name. So even if you start a business out there and you have to change the name of your business 3 months in, it's not the end of the world.
Oh, exactly like Greg said, you want your customers to know exactly who you are and what you do. So the name matters.
It does.
Yeah, we're really happy with how it turned out. But it was very painful with our lawyer to work through that.
I bet. I do share with people all the time that the important part of a trademark is not just whether you can get the trademark too, it's protecting it. So if you have too generic of a name that the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office lets you have and approves it, that's one thing. But to be able to defend something, that's the reason why you get a trademark, is to protect it. And so I love your name. I love that you have this unique spelling of it with the UYOU. And so that was, again, I think, brilliant move. Well, let's get to franchising now. So you roll the business out. When does franchising come into play as this is the way we're going to expand this out? How soon after you launch?
I mean, pretty soon in 2022, when everyone was knocking on our door, I mean, rec departments, schools, everyone all over the state, we had a running wait list at all times. We knew that eventually we would want to franchise. We worked really hard to try to run a corporate model for 2022 and 2023. We knew that in order to get to a franchise model, we had to prove to ourselves and to the people that would trust us someday that we knew what we were doing. And so we really just, again, kept saying yes and growing and growing. And we reached a point early in 2024 where we said, okay, do we want to keep trying to do it in a corporate model where our growth would be as quick as we could hire full-time teams? Or would we want to try and do a franchise model where passionate people can become business owners and bring the mission to their own communities? They're going to be better advocates in their own communities. These are the people that are like the mayors of their communities, right? They're going to do a much better job than a corporate person that tries to come in and implement programming. They're going to be so successful because they know their communities best. And when we had that conversation, it was a no-brainer that this is a franchise model. That is why all of our competitors are franchising.
True.
And so that's when we made that decision. So in 2024, really over the last year and a half, we've worked with franchise experts in the industry to really help us, because we learned the hard way, the first 3 years of InclYOUsion Sports. Trying to do everything or learn how to do everything is just really detrimental to the growth and the quality and the impact that you can have. So we made the decision we are going to invest in franchise experts to really help us design the most top quality programming. And that's what we've really done over the last year and a half. We've made the investments to set it up from the ground up so that it grows all over the U.S.
Very smart. And let's face it, the field for you to grow and expand is wide open, because most other sports franchises that are out there have territories that are filled. So if somebody wanted to open a youth sports franchise and they love your concept, even if they wanted another franchise, they couldn't get it. The territory is probably sold out. So you really have a huge opportunity right now that I know is obviously not going to last forever. But this is an exciting time. So just to bring the audience up to speed, you guys are brand new. Like, your franchise, you are now legal. You have your FDD. You're ready to go. What's the growth strategy for 2025? How many do you hope to open?
Yes. So we officially announced to our community that we are selling franchises 5 days ago. So it's very exciting. One of the strategic marketing initiatives we've used across all of our programming is building wait lists and building hype. So we've had a wait list since the beginning of the year for people who wanted to be first to know. So luckily we already have, people in our pipeline, candidates who are excited to move through this process with us. Our goal is to have a minimum of 6 franchisees in 2025. And that's really, reverse engineering our big goals of being, a minimum of 100 franchises by 2030. So, over the next 5 years, we really want to have an impact in all states. We will be a global brand. And so we're working backwards from those aspirations. And so 6 is our target for 2025. And, a lot of the interest so far has been in the people already enjoying our programs, which for us says we're doing the right things, that the families and the partners we have, they want to be a part of it.
And you're not going to get any better franchisee than the person who is a referral, who's maybe even had their kid in the program and sees it. That's your strongest franchise candidate usually.
Yeah, and that's been the coolest part, connecting with those parents during the classes, and then when they're cycling back and wanting to learn more about this, and like, oh, that kid was so much fun, and like that parent was great. Like, I'm so glad they're reaching out. So that's kind of that early footwork, that 6 number of trying to work within our own initial networks to get up and running with some of the sales this summer and the fall. So it's been exciting to see some of the names wanting to learn more. So we're excited.
Is the expansion strategy initially to stay in the Northeast?
That's how we're starting. We are open to people, within the states that we're currently registered, but just for the fact that we know where we have the biggest impact right now. We know the states that parents and partners have called us from: Maine, Connecticut, New Hampshire. Really, the Northeast is an easy first target for us, and then continuing to expand from there.
Yeah, I think that's a great growth strategy for you guys, especially considering that referrals is going to be your number one way of growing. And it's certainly going to happen a lot easier than if you start expanding out to California. And it becomes really, really difficult to train and support coast to coast if we don't have the infrastructure. And so you've got so much territory to sell. This is going to be very exciting to watch you guys as you continue on this journey. What kind of legacy do you guys hope that this turns into for you?
I mean, for me, and I'll let Greg speak too. I mean, we've said from the beginning, our number one goal is to have the most impact that we can have to make sure that kids everywhere have access to sports. And so for us, we really envision this being a global brand that actually goes well beyond just franchising. InclYOUsion Sports will be a supportive community for families to learn sports for the first time. And so franchising is one way. We're really excited to do that. But the education and support beyond that is also in the pipeline of things like children's book series and YouTube channel and things, a multimedia approach where franchisees will benefit from all of the groundwork that we're laying so that families feel supported. And again, your local sports programs aren't typically taking it that next step. Programs currently, we give all families a free ebook before they start class, and they get to walk through the journey of what a class looks like before they even step foot on the field with us. We're trying to go above and beyond so that they have an unmatched experience because we know that's what will keep them coming back.
Awesome. Well, I know now is a great time for people to consider joining your brand since the field of territory is wide open. If someone was interested in learning more about opening an InclYOUsion Sports franchise, where would they go?
Absolutely. So InclYOUsion Sports franchise, and like you said, Frank, InclYOUsion is spelled INCLYOU. And there we have all of our information on how to contact us. What does it actually look like? What does it feel like to be a franchisee? All the good frequently asked questions that everyone wants to know. And we invite you to reach out. We'll jump on a call, share more, and get started.
Sweet. All right. I got one last question for you. I end every podcast with the franchise tip jar because the franchise community is so generous with sharing. You guys are at the starting line here of your franchise journey. What's the boldest bet that you guys are making on yourselves right now?
Good question. If we can do what we've already done, we can literally do anything. And we're going to bring people along that have that same mindset, that don't need to see the full staircase to take the first step. We know we're going to bring experts along with us so that we don't have to figure this out alone. And we know that the mission and the vision is going to be limitless.
Sweet. Well, you guys are fearless. You guys have just such, I think, great hearts, and you know exactly who you're servicing, and your mission is clear. And I wish you both all the success with InclYOUsion Sports. It's great to finally meet you guys.
Thank you so much. This has been awesome.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.